Welcome back to Heaven's Vault, Episode 4. We're on Mayerzi, a farming moon. Let's get out of this place. Woohoo! So, we've talked a lot about the way that the dialogue system works and how I think that it's a good replacement for branching dialogue. Obviously, you're still going to need branching dialogue, but I like the idea that you can reduce the number of branches by increasing player involvement in other manners, in other ways that don't require branching. And one of those ways that we talked about was by having good non-dialogue elements like player opt-in via button clicks, scene transitions, stuff like that. But another thing we can do is we can put in mini games that are powered through the dialogue. For example, the word deciphering and stuff like that. That sort of stuff will also be of use to us, but it's not really something that this game does very much of. I think it's something that could be pushed a lot further, and I'd really love to see that. Anyway, in this game, we're going to go to the Cyclones, or Cyclones. And we're going to find out what's down there. This is not going to be one of those episodes where we get through an entire chunk, though, because what we find in the Cyclones takes more than half an hour. So if we wanted to, we could go anywhere that we've learned how to reach. We could go to Elbereth, we could go to Ajax, we could go to Renaki even. That's interesting. I don't remember Renaki being there on my first playthrough. Maybe it just I'd never zoomed out far enough. If we went to Renaki, we might actually be able to discover things in a different order. So someday I might go ahead and try to do things in a different order and see whether or not they can be pushed that far. I don't know how flexible the context engine is. We're supposed to be headed over to this Iolite moon, though. That's just our next stop. That is the moon where the crystal came from, if I remember correctly. The crystal that we found on that pig farm. And here we are back in this section. One of the things about this section that I don't like is that the music is really, really loud, even if you turn the music down, because they forgot to put the music volume as working in this part of the game. I guess it's okay. Can you hear me over the music? So if you make a wrong turn, they give you the option of just going back. But you can also just drive around as you'd like. I believe that you're not allowed to actually go places that aren't on your map yet. Like if you try, it'll just be like, there's nothing here. But it's fun that you can just drive around if you want. There are things like wrecks and stuff, and you can visit them. Here we're explaining why we're the only person on this river, and the reason is because everybody goes at the same speed. And here we're getting the idea that this river analogy that we've got here is an analogy for not liking people, or for being an introvert, or for something along those lines, for distrust perhaps. You come out to these rivers if you're not a people person, and that is the way that you frame an analogy. This river section is an analogy for the main character's personality. In addition to being an analogy for, or at least a gateway into, the overall nature of this reality as the dreamlike and forgetful reality. Of course, that's also going to be a mirror of the main character's personality, because that's the whole point. Everything is a mirror of the main character's personality, or the main challenge of the game, the main theme of the game, which happens to be the main character's personality. Not sure if I said anything that made sense there, because I was busy trying to remember the way around that particular strange loop. Basically, everything in the game supports the same set of themes, whether it's the river of time here, or the story, or the main character's personality, or even the NPCs. They all have the same set of themes. They all echo the same, core elements, and they support each other. Now let's head on down to that moon. I think this is... that's right. I was misremembering the order of things. This is actually quite short. This internal is really cool looking. I love the way that this ship looks on the inside. It's good. So here we discover that there is another means of transport besides this ship. We can teleport. How handy. Teleporting becomes a real core crutch of the series. It's used to excuse a lot of things in terms of needing to get people to go places or needing to get people to not go places. We just use teleporters as an excuse, and this is classic sci-fi tropes, right? You use the technology to help form your story. So the technology sometimes supports your core theme, but sometimes it's structural and just helps you build your story. So that's what we got with the Hopper. I don't know whether or not the Hopper has any deep thematic resonance, but it is a very useful structural element.
A moment later, the robot was gone, and I was alone in the dark.
This is a good pacing moment where we lose our robot temporarily and just have to talk to ourselves for a while. But then the robot comes back. And look, with luggage. Let's see what unique we had here. Oh, the 2D and 3D aren't quite lining up today. Let's kick it. A snake off of an airless moon. That would be quite a snake. I think that these treasures are set. I don't think they're going to be any different than they were last time. Stitched along the belt? Oh my gosh. More soft games, more soft side games for us to do our dialogue stuff with. So this is a pacing element because this is basically a giant block of unending dialogue where they explain to us what's going on. They interrupt it with some stuff here where we can get a distraction from it and do other things. I'm pretty sure. Is it? Pretty sure this is pilgrims. Let's see here. This doesn't look like gods to me. It looks more like... It's either we pilgrims or God's pilgrims, right? But God, we already know that goddess doesn't look like that, right? So it must be we, right? We pilgrims follow, stay, or pray. Well, this is holy. I don't know whether or not that's right. It looks like it's different than it was the first time around. Well, we know that that's not true because he is specifically noted as having left the gem for Miari. And that's the weakness of this context system. There are times when the player knows more than you think that they're going to know at any given moment. And that's always going to be a little bit complex if the player is on top of it. So let's fill in some stuff here. The idea is that they don't put spaces in their stuff, so we have to figure out what words fit where. And the only word here that seems to fit at all is gods and us. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. There's my memory working, even though I'm not actually, remembering things. My brain kept them, even though I don't remember having kept them. So this here is mountain or earth or surface, something like that, right? And this here is downfall or death or damage, something like that. But what we don't see is any of these holy squiggles. So protect would be a strange choice, and so would bless, but I guess those are really the only options, aren't they? I guess if it's earth and then a lightning bolt, maybe it means shield us from the lightning bolt. I can't really be sure whether or not these words are the same as the first time through. It's been a little while since my first time through, and memory is faded. Whoa, this is different. I don't think it wasn't a sale last time. Okay, so never mind. These are at least partially randomized, unless I'm misremembering. So here's protect, and here's us, and that is, I think, above, something like that. It doesn't make any sense though. Let's see what they're going to tell us it is. Wins. Yeah, that's correct. It's on a sale. Of course it's a wins protect us. I was thinking it was sky protect us. She's kind of staring off into space rather than looking at the robot. Alright, here we are, going to the core of the Cyclones. We already knew that we needed to go to the core of the Cyclones, but we weren't willing to do it until we found a little bit more information. There's no reason to go back to a lady I don't trust on a world I don't trust at this point. We can push on and go to the Cyclones. Or Cyclones? Whatever. So that was a giant block of dialogue. There was no free walking or investigation at any point there. We drove to this location, had a bunch of dialogue, and now we're driving away to a new location. But that's okay because the dialogue was interrupted by some minigames, and the dialogue was paced out to have different arcs with different timing and different feels. Like we were alone in our bunk for a while, and then we got to open stuff and discover stuff. We got to argue with the robot about stuff. It's something where we had a lot of variety, even though it was just dialogue. And that's kind of the thing I wanted to make clear. Dialogue is not just dialogue. There's like 4 or 5 different kinds of dialogue that serve different purposes. You can have different pacing, all sorts of stuff like that. That's the sort of thing you're going to need if you are making yourself a story game. Even if you don't feel like doing the approach they use. I like this Cyclones section here because it's super fast and fun, like a Sonic game almost. And what you get is the sudden knowledge that you can't actually crash or lose. All you can do is take a wrong turn. But that's also very relaxing. So really the only real reason for you to pay attention is that the center of these is faster than the edges. So if you want to move faster, you go to the center. But you don't have to do anything other than make your turns. Watch, I'll show you. Go. Wouldn't let me hit it. Wouldn't let me hit it. Wouldn't let me hit it. It automatically pilots around, as you can see. Is there a cult living inside the Cyclones? Yeah, basically. Being culty. Woohoo! Oh, that feels pretty good. Oh, we're going the wrong way. Oof. Of course, the penalty for taking a wrong turn is that you can hit backspace and take the correct turn, so it's not a big deal. Wah! Woo! Wah! By the way, the spoilers begin in earnest next episode, maybe even at the end of this episode. So if you plan to play the game and I didn't convince you to play it yet, yeah, go play it, because after this, a lot of the surprises are going to get spoiled. And the game is still fun when you don't have the surprises, but I think there's a lot more fun to be had if you don't know everything. That's funny. I could have sworn it was right over here. No? Okay. Oh, well, there it is. Down we go. So we'll land here, and then we'll stop this episode for today. Next episode, we'll talk about this area we're diving into. And this is going to be an interesting talk about structuring a level in a story game, because the level design is pretty unique. It's a solid. It's got a bunch of things to it to discuss. So that should be a fun topic. But this level is full of weapons grade spoilers. So
The hopper fired, and for a moment I was gone. Not aboard the Nightingale, not on the moon beneath. It could have been a heartbeat or an hour. But I didn't feel the cold until I reappeared.
all right, well, this is going to be the end of this episode. And next episode, we'll go turn that corner and see what's around the other side. If you'll stop talking. I guess I should go through this dialogue, because otherwise I won't get a chance. You don't remember him very well? Really? How strange. See you next time, everybody.